Well, I decided what's next on the agenda. I've decided to cover the two lower wings. I enjoy doing that. I still have to put the EcoBond filler, or whatever you want to call it, weave filler on the lower ailerons, but I'll do that this afternoon before I knock off. What I've done with the two lower wings, I've put them on these two trestles. I've washed them. This one's still not quite dry yet. There'll be puddles of water on it, which I'll clean off, which will dry off pretty quick anyway. I've marked where I want the fabric to start, like along this leading edge. This is the upper side of the lower wing. Yeah, this wing is the correct way up. The bottom fabric, I want to start here on this line, and it'll go this way, around the leading edge, underneath, right the way underneath. It'll come back up and glue onto the rear main spar. Yeah, the upper fabric, which I haven't marked yet, will start about here somewhere under the wing, about there, and come up and go along and be glued on the underside of this this spar cap. So what that means is that from here to about there somewhere, there'll be two lots of fabric, yeah, on the leading edge. So, you know, when you live in a rural area like I do, and you bounce off grasshoppers and stuff, you don't want the fabric damaged. So two layers hopefully are going to be a bit better than one. Now what I've also done on this wing, it's upside down at the moment, I've marked where the upper fabric's going to start along this line here. I'll turn this over in a minute and turn the other one over and mark the same on the other side. I washed this wing earlier. I washed it this morning, so it's dried out now, but the other one I only washed about an hour ago, so it's still wet. I've put tape here. As much as anything, it's to bring it up to the same, or to bring it up towards the same height as these two ribs. This is called anti-chafing tape. It's a sort of a fabric-y type tape, and I've also put it there like that. Now through here there will be some holes with anchor nuts. Remember, there's a panel goes on here. Here's the aileron bell crank that you need to be able to gain access to rig the aeroplane after it's finished. So there's a plate that goes on here. That plate's already painted and in the other hanger. But we need to make some holes in here, I guess, before we go too much further. Down here, hopefully the trusty soldering iron's heating up. Yeah, it sure is. So we can bring it down. And it takes a little bit more to burn through this fabric. It still burns. Yeah, there we go. But not quite. It's not quite as quick to burn through as regular the regular fabric. Yeah, there we go. There's our 3 holes there, and same on this side. Beautiful. Yep. Just got to make sure they stop burning so they don't keep on going while you're not here. Come back and find the hanger burnt down. But anyway, there we go. The two lower ailerons have moved their way into the paint shop. Not that I've got to spray them or anything, I'm just going to paint them with a foam brush, it's called. So anyway, I'll go ahead and mark this line on the other wing. I'll tip both wings upside down or up the other way. And I'll mark this line on the other wing and that line on this wing. And we'll work out where we go from there. Okay, to mark this line on the leading edge, all I did was, this is a piece of 1/2 inch aluminium. It's part of the kit somewhere, but I just haven't used it. I've just put it on the rivet heads and I'm marking that 1/2 inch up from the rivet heads. Just gives me a nice straight line to work to. And I'll whiz down the leading edge here and knock this over. There we go. That's the line for the lower fabric. The lower fabric will start there and go this way, underneath the wing and up and attach to the trailing edge. Yeah. I'll go ahead and do the opposite one on this side. It'll be for the upper fabric. Okay, so this wing structure is about 8 feet long. So we want to cut a little bit extra fabric. We want probably another at least 6 inches, maybe more, maybe a little bit more. I've got plenty of fabric, so it's not a drama. But we want maybe about 8 feet 6. That gives us about 3. Actually, no, we'll make it 9 feet. That gives us 6 inches of overlap here and 6 inches of overlap, well, if I make the upper fabric the same. So let's make it 9 feet and we'll have there'll be some scrap, but that's okay, we can afford that. Okay, here's our 8 feet of medium grade fabric. It's actually 8 feet here, plus I've overlapped 1 foot. So I've actually got 9 feet that I'm marking out, which comes to about here. I'll cut this off, and this will be the bottom of one of the 2 lower wings. Yeah, and while I'm at it, I might as well cut the piece for the other side as well, for the other wing. Here we go. Right. Okay, this is not going to prove very much, but it will go on there. This heavier fabric, the medium weight fabric, was actually wider than the light grade fabric. The actual width of the fabric was more. There we go. Remember, this will come from under there somewhere. And under about there somewhere. So there's plenty there. I guess the main reason for showing this if we have a look at it this way, the leading edge is more or less where the fabric is more or less where it's got to go. But if you have a look at this, there's an absolute ton of fabric here, which is probably plenty to cover that aileron. Yeah, probably plenty to cover that aileron. So if we put all our waste up that end, yeah, so this is the inboard end, the aeroplane end, the fuselage end. So if we have a little bit of overlap there, that'll be glued down. That's about all we need. And remember, we had a whole foot of extra material. Most of it's here on this end. Yeah, most of it's here. And that's way more than I need. I only need about here somewhere. So if we very carefully cut there, we would have enough for the aileron. Oh, haven't you already covered your ailerons? Yes. Yes, I have, because I wanted the ailerons covered in light grade fabric. The ailerons are not subjected to the pulse loading from the propeller that the wing is subjected to, especially this part, the part between the fuselage and the aileron. That's going to get hammered. That's why I chose the heavier fabric for the wings. This part, not so much. This part, the rivet spacing is more, because it's not subjected to those pulsation loads. Here, the rivet spacing is much closer. But anyway, let's go ahead and cut another one of them for the other wing while we're at it, shall we? All right, here's one of the bottom fabrics. I'm using this a rotary pinking device to pink the edges. I want a pinked edge of the bottom fabric. I can do it with this. I can do it with this. They're pinking shears. Yeah, they've got serrated edges. This is a much more difficult way to do it. It will do it, but it's more difficult. But this thing, in conjunction with these green plastic boards that are underneath the fabric here, this works a treat. This will work just fine. I'll hopefully try and demonstrate. I'm just using the steel rule as a guide. Try not to run over the steel rule because it wrecks the blade. Yeah, it's not a perfect, it doesn't pink like these do. It makes a sort of a curvy sort of an edge, but it's good enough. It's good enough. These things are available from places that sell quilting materials. So if your Nana does quilting, she probably has one of these things. Maybe not with a curly blade in it, pinking blade. Probably more likely with a straight blade. And they're razor sharp. They're really, especially the straight blade, sort your fingers out, no problem. We'll just run the pinking shears along the other side so you can get a comparison. Yeah, the pinking shears do a much sharper sort of a cut. This is far more wavy compared to that one. But anyway, that's it. I'll go ahead and knock these over and bring you back. All right, here's the lower skin, I keep calling it skin, lower fabric on this right-hand wing. I've got a line drawn along the leading edge here where I want the fabric, which is down about there somewhere. I'm just using these clamps for now. I can put one there probably. Not very well, not very successfully, but anyway. So I can now go along, pull this fabric reasonably firm, and glue it down along that leading edge, just over about that much, about an inch along the leading edge here. Then I can pull it a little bit taut, not ridiculous, but a little bit taut, and attach it along the trailing edge. Yeah, that's the plan. That clamp seems to fit a bit better than the others. Maybe I'll put another one. But there you go, that's what we're trying to achieve. I've also cut the fabric on the table there for the bottom of the other wing, this wing. I've just brought them near each other. I was going to use one as a bench to help attach the fabric, but I'm using the bench as a bench, so it works out a little bit better. But yeah, that's our next job, is to attach that fabric along the leading edge and then come on attach it along the trailing edge. It's pretty simple. It's not rocket science, but it just takes a bit of time, that's all. All right, we've got a couple of different options. We can paint the Eco Bond along the line that we want to glue on, wait for it to go off, put it on, run the iron over it, and it will stick. Or we can do what I just did then and paint it on, wipe it fairly much off. We can paint it directly onto the fabric, just like that. We only want about an inch at the moment. It's all I really need. And I tend to use this method more than any. And we push it through, we push the glue through the fabric weave and onto the surface below. Look at that. And there it is. Now you'll be very hard pushed to get that back off again once the glue goes off. But we've wiped a fair proportion of it back off again. You do that, that's about a foot, that maybe 8 or 10 inches. And we just work our way along, bit by bit. Move this up here, do another foot. I'm going to try and keep our fabric straight along the line I've drawn, more or less straight anyway, doesn't have to be perfect. So we can put it on, because we're going to wipe it through. This is the pinked edge we just made a few minutes ago, or a little bit earlier in the video, I suppose. Remember, we're wiping up and that way. I want to pull it not ridiculously tight, because it's not tied on at the other end. But I don't want to wipe it this way and wipe it away from the line I've got drawn on the skin, on the leading edge skin. Look at that. Fabulous. We'll call it quits at that, and I'll just keep on going and glue the fabric down. We've got a few little wrinkles and stuff here. They will iron out, but we can also pull them out once the glue goes off. Yep. Here's our lower fabric down here, almost touching the floor. But yeah, when we pull up on this, we'll pull this up and glue along the trailing edge here. And then we'll put the top skin on. It'll start down below the leading edge, come up and over, and go underneath and glue on to the trailing edge. There's a plan. There is a plan. That's one done. I might turn this wing around so that the two leading edges are facing one another, and I'll go ahead and do this other wing as well. Get the lower fabric attached at least to the leading edge this afternoon. Maybe further than that. But anyway, that's what I'm about to do next. Right, that should do. there. This is way more than I need. We can try and edge it down that way a little bit. Or we can do this. And there we go. Better already. And yep, that'll go up there somewhere, something like that. All right, both wings are at the same stage. The lower fabric has been attached to the leading edge of both wing structures. The next step is to trim the excess. If you can see over here, for instance, all this fabric is excess, and same on this wing. It's got plenty of excess as well. Ultimately, we'll just get you over here. Ultimately, I want this lower fabric to end about along this line here. Yeah, that, and it'll be glued on this side, glued along here. So I've got to make sure there's not big wrinkles in it. Small wrinkles are fine. I haven't ironed them yet. But yeah, I might trim back here somewhere, so I've got a couple of inches to spare, so I'm not trying to deal with a foot of fabric, or a couple of feet of fabric. And then I'll trim along here with the pinking shears. I'll mark it and cut it. Over here, let's see if you can see this part. Over here I'll trim down this way, and that fabric will fold down and be glued onto this rib. And I'll also cut along here, but not on this fabric, below, on the fabric below. So that's quite a big piece of offcut. But anyway, let's just cut it down a little bit before we start. Yeah, so this will be. I've already been along. I'll show you this way onto the structure. I've already been along the structure, pushed down on the fabric and pulled the structure towards me. So the fabric is tight along the leading edge here. Yeah, that's pretty good. That looks pretty good. Then I came to this end and pulled the fabric up so that it's reasonably tight. It's not tight, but it's reasonable. Yeah? Gives us something to work with. So let's do this for starters. We can cut in about here. That's very generous. From this edge we can come in about here. Now these cuts are way too big. That's okay. We'll cut down to a line in a little while. Yeah, and then maybe along about there somewhere. Talking about the other day that this could be used to potentially cover an aileron, or at least cover one side of an aileron. Yeah, there's a lot of excess there, but I'm good. I've already covered my ailerons. This might be enough to cover probably nothing. But anyway, yeah, just be careful how you use your offcuts is what I was trying to get across to. You can roll this up. Yeah, that's nice and firm. What I will do is draw a line along this edge here. If you can see me, you can't. Yeah, I'll draw a line along this edge and use the pinking shears and pink that along there, and then we can glue it down. That'll be the first step. This can be cut off as well. There's more excess here than what we really need along this piece. It only needs to. This fabric really only needs to come up to about a little bit beyond the bottom here. Yeah. So even if I bring it halfway up, there's still excess that I need to cut off. But that's okay. So let's go ahead and do this bit first. We're just going to pink along the line that I just drew here, which is basically this, a little bit back from this edge. Okay, that can go in the bin, that one. Not big enough to use as an offcut. Now this, all things being equal, should come up there. About like that. And like that. And like this. Yeah, that fabric's fairly floppy. We can pull it up a bit tighter, but I don't really think it's worth it. We've got most of the wrinkles out of it. This'll pull more of the wrinkles out when I pull this piece of fabric here. When I pull it this way, it gets wrinkles out over there. I don't know, you can't see that. But anyway, this will be good. This will come down quite well, get trimmed off. This can get glued on. It can probably be glued on now, actually. I think so. Yep, that's sitting down beautifully. This is sitting down beautifully. Hey, fantastic. Yeah, that's probably the next logical piece to do. Then we'll work on this bit down here, if you can see it, which you probably can't. Next we'll work on this bit. Still can't. This bit along here, it'll have to be trimmed back and it'll fold up and get glued along the rear main spar. Anyway, let's do the same thing that we did on the leading edge. We'll do it to this piece. I'll just make sure it's sitting down properly on the leading edge first before we go too much further, which it certainly is. I'm pulling the main spar towards me. Oh, for God's sake. Yeah, put my hand on the lower fabric, pull the main spar towards me, and that'll tighten up the fabric. Oops, no table under there. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Leading edge is pretty good. Yep. Okay, let's do that. Let's let's glue this on. Maybe I could pull that up a little bit more. Why not? So you've got to understand that the fabric's got to shrink yet, and yeah, when the fabric shrinks, it will tighten itself up. It doesn't have to be tight as a drum before you start. So that's just good, very good. Here we are, all pinked and glued down on this edge. That'll take an hour or so to go off. Now we've got to tackle that edge along the rear main spar. I have to cut it yet. So let's do that next. See how we go. Okay, in this corner, we'll use normal scissors, I think, here. No, we'll use the pinking ones, what the heck. In this corner, I want to cut in about 45 degrees. So I want to make a cut about there, heading directly for that corner. Yeah, so probably that's about 45. This is the problem with pinking shears. They've got a big snout and they don't. You can't get close to an edge. Now this needs to come up and it'll get attached to this rib, and this one will come up once it's cut off and get attached to the rear spar like that. Yeah, and that should sit down reasonably good, reasonably nice. I can maybe able to take that a little bit closer. If not, I'll just take it in with, yep, there, like that. Perfect. How good is that? Okay. So we'll do the same thing over here, into that corner as well. Because this whole thing has to fold up. So we'll come in. Yep, this fabric is reasonably firm. Yeah, it can be pulled out a little bit, not much in it. So 45 degrees, about there. So this will come up. I don't know what I'll do with that, probably cut it off somewhere. That's it. Now we need to mark this up. So let's see if we can mark this trailing edge. If we pick the whole wing up, like this, we look up here. If I sort of pull the fabric firm, like that, and mark up here, bit like that. That gives us a line to mark to. Oh. Here's our line. We want to be, I know where I can get a piece of material that'll take us 1/2 inch away from that line. So we can put that here and there. Can you see that line? Not very well. How about this? Yeah. Here's the line I marked up in that corner, and I've just moved 1/2 inch further that way. So now I've got some room to move. I won't be stuck up in the corner. There's our line we'll cut to. Beautiful. Off we go. Let's have a go. Okay. Now what we've got to do is fasten this fabric down to the trailing edge, the rear main spar I should say. Same as we do all the others. Just about 1 inch or so. And look at the fabric. The fabric's already moderately taut. Pretty reasonable. I'm just putting a little bit of pressure with my thumb. This thumb here. And look at that, beautiful. That'll shrink up perfectly with the when we get the ironing out. And I'll wipe some of that off before it dries too much. Now I'm wiping it down so that I'm pulling on the fabric at the same time. That's fabulous. Really fabulous. a drum, absolutely tight as a drum. But I'm happy with it so far. Matter of fact, I'm really happy indeed. Yeah, this excess can be cut off. I don't want to put too much stress on anything just now and run the risk of moving the fabric on the glue. Yeah, I want to keep it. I want to just avoid doing that. The glue on the leading edges was done yesterday, so it's well and truly gone off. It goes off in a couple of hours, less than a couple of hours probably. Matter of fact, it was probably already off last night when I finished work, but it's not going to move anywhere. So I might bring this wing up to the same status as this one. Before we go too much further, I think that'd be a good thing to do. Well, this is as good a spot as any to close off for the day. Just show you the fabric stamps. The leading edge of the lower skin, or the lower fabric, has been glued down. The trailing edge has also been glued down. These ends have still got to be glued on yet, they're just flopping around there. But all in all, I am pretty happy. These haven't been shrunk yet, so they still got the unmade bed look. But they're coming along beautifully. I'm really quite happy, really happy indeed. This end's got to be fastened down as well. I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to let what I've already done go off, and I'll probably be back at it again tomorrow morning. This area will be cut out. There's a panel goes on here, but this will have to be cut and folded around and attached underneath. And I think the aileron bell crank lives under there. So that's what that's for, and there's the one on the other wing if you can see it from here. But no, good spot to stop, and I'll go ahead. I should be able to finish this easy enough tomorrow, and depending on how the glue's gone off, whether I turn the wings over and attach the fabric to the other side, the upper fabric. Remember the other day we cut that in an earlier part of the video. We actually cut the fabric. So anyway, that's it. Yeah, have a good weekend. Try and get your feet off the ground as usual, and yeah, enjoy yourself. With any luck, we'll have a wet weekend, but we haven't had rain. It's getting serious. The farmers are going to be not very happy. All right, have a good weekend. See you later. Bye now.